Welcome to Therapy is Dope with Alicia.
And Julie, let's make self help fun again. No, seriously, laughter is the best medicine.
Come and join us as we introduce new ways of thinking and being.
And hopefully get you laughing along the way.
Hey guys, so Julie and I are obviously just diving right into all the difficult topics. No, nothing holding us back here, no restraints. Um, so today's episode is marriage and dating, and I feel like we could definitely do an entire series on this.
Oh,
But
for
today we'll just
sure.
yeah. So today we'll just do a little intro. Probably, I assume, talking about our own experiences, right?
Yeah, I would assume I would do that and see where it goes. Kind
Okay.
of off the cuff here, but go.
Yeah. Um, I know that Julie has a lot of great dating stories. We've kind of reviewed her dating history in the past and present. And for me, I am not married, but in a committed relationship. And doing the therapy that I do, I have also been introduced to the worlds of ethical non monogamy and polyamory. And there's just a lot of different options out here for marriage and dating.
It is. But I do want to think, like, kind of pull it back, take a step back, and ask, what do you think is the motivation for people to either be in relationships or get married or have the title marriage? Or like, what does that mean to people? You think it's something that we were brought up in the society with all this movie magic and there's always romanticism, there's always at the end there's always a marriage, like the prince comes in and saves this princess and all this stuff, right? White horse, all that good stuff. So it's like, how can we not believe in marriage? I don't know, but at the same time, isn't it, where's the line when it becomes unhealthy?
Mm, those are all good questions. You just threw a lot at me there. Um, Historically, marriage was an arrangement. Sometimes it was a political arrangement, sometimes it was a financial arrangement, and always it was a reproduction arrangement because reproduction was important and having heirs was important and having help out on the farm was important. So it was an arrangement that was not about love at all. And there were matchmakers and there were arranged marriages and all kinds of things as time evolved. And now we've gotten to this point where we expect our partner to be our everything. And Esther Perel, who I very much respect, she talks a lot in about relationships and sexual relationships, and she says that it's become very unfair that have so many expectations for our partners nowadays.
I absolutely agree with you and her. She is amazing, world renowned couples therapist, sex therapist, and she does say that, going back to your point, it's so much pressure for one person to be your dad, your best friend, your lover, your boss, your whatever, your caretaker, your everything, and all these relationships, like, it's all dependent on one person. I couldn't even imagine being someone else's everything, like the pinnacle of everything. I so I run a business, and I'm everybody's final decision, right? So imagine I go home and then I'm again everybody's final decision on things. It would take, it literally would like lose my libido. I'd be like, okay, then I'm just gonna be this walking, talking decision maker for everybody. And I can't. And at the end of the day, I can't be your lover. There's no way. Um, it would just, I don't know. That's just so much pressure. I think about it now, and then I could understand why codependency becomes a problem after in long term relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our romanticism, as you were saying, I think has created this idea that a person can be your everything. But realistically, that's not healthy for us. It's better for us to have other friends who we can talk to and other people to go hang out with, and um maybe not having that person be our sole income. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but if the relationship deteriorates for any reason, how are you going to get out? So we've got to maintain supports of some nature in order to be able to leave
Yeah,
if
or I could understand, what if the person has really young kids and they don't have the means to do daycare or like care for the children, right? So I do agree with having or trying to maybe even do volunteer work just to have not necessarily like financial dependency, but at least social dependency. You're not like all your, at least you have a network of friends you could go to. You have a network, like let's say you volunteer once a week at a hospital, at a school, at a whatever. Do you know how many people you meet, even if it's just 1 hour a week? You start meeting those people, you start expanding your network, and then you have that self belief in yourself versus I'm at home and all my worth is dependent on the person coming home.
yeah.
Because you're gonna have to permission, like, can I get permission to buy this? Can I get permission to do this? Can I get permission? Because you don't really have the financial means at the time. Um, which is fine, but long term, you don't want, I don't know. For me personally, I just don't want to ask for permission to live my life.
In a healthy relationship, you wouldn't have to, ideally. Usually there are relationships that exist where, let's say, the woman or sometimes even the man is financially dependent on the woman, but they don't really have to ask to spend money. It's like, hey, I'm going to go to lunch with my friend or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, good, have fun, whatever. But I think it gets dangerous, like you were saying, if you have no other supports or outlets and
Mm,
you're really isolated. And in unhealthy relationships, that's how it becomes. Like, I don't want you to work. I don't want you to volunteer. Why would you do that? Why do you talk to your mom? She's such a bitch to you, and then the next thing you know, you have nothing, no one, and you have no money. So I think it's important that you keep something for yourself out there.
right. A club. You can even join a club or a book club or whatever it is, right? And there was a TED talk about abuse, and this woman, she was saying she was an abused woman for years, and she really isolated herself, and she didn't even know it was happening. And
Yeah.
the abuser sometimes doesn't aren't even aware of the isolation that they're doing on that person either, right? So it's gaslighting, isolation. So she starts believing, she or he, right, starts believing their partner's opinion of them. So it's like, hey, you don't look that pretty today, or you should start working out. And let's say that's the only opinion you get. So it's like, oh, I need to start working out. I need to start working out. And that's repeated every day. Maybe I am really fat. Maybe I am this. Maybe I am that. And then you don't have other friends going, girl, you look great. Or, oh, I'll work out with you. Or whatever. If you decide that you want to do it, then do it.
Right.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't know if you take my advice in relationships because I'm really good at short-term relationships. I love dating, and it's not like putting another notch on my belt or anything. And it's more like having these experiences, and I'm so curious about other people. And I love learning in general, so I love learning about another person. And on top of that, going back to I said in the other episode, when I do my makeup or when I do whatever, I feel really good. So I love dressing up, and then I get wined and dined, and then I get to learn about a person. So it's like for me, it's like I love going on dates. It's exciting. And in my 20s, I remember just feeling like I would show up on a date in my wedding dress. I'd be like, this is the one. I'm gonna marry this guy. This is it. Right? But I think that's the pressure. That's the Hollywood magic, and all those movies, those romantic comedies, they all come down to that because they have to put a whole story in an hour and a half, right? So they're trying to push these thousands of steps, regular steps in a relationship to grow a relationship in a very short period of time versus in a regular relationship, you're constantly learning about each other and getting closer and whatever, and that's is spread over years.
Yeah. Well, I think Hollywood also does it because we like it. We like a happy ending. We like the bad boy to turn into a good boy who picks us.
No,
We
that's true.
like we like the ideas that Hollywood's throwing at us. We like the idea of someone coming to rescue us on a white horse. Like, yes, I don't have to do all the work. You're gonna just come in and rescue me and save the day. That sounds great. It does.
Mm,
It sounds great. But, unfortunately, those things are rarely a reality. Not that they aren't a reality sometimes, but they're sort of outlier experiences. They're the exception to the rule. So, yeah, what you're saying is true that there's usually a lot more that goes into things. But with that being said, I also think that relationships happen all different kinds of ways. And in my 20s, I thought I knew how relationships were supposed to go. And life was so kind to teach me that I didn't know shit. And I tell my clients all the time that a lot of my friends, like, I look at their relationships and I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me in my 20s, I would have told you there's no way that this or that's going to work out. Or like this one gay couple I used to hang out with all the time, love them to death. But I thought that they fought too much. I was like, oh, these two bicker way too much. Like, this isn't healthy. And now I'm the exact same way in my relationship with Sebastian. We bicker all the time, and neither one of us are phased by it at all. It doesn't bother us. But other people might be like, oh, that doesn't seem healthy.
oh,
You know what I
how
mean?
long have you and Sebastian been together now?
7 years.
Mm,
But, our relationship was not a typical protocol relationship, and most of my friends weren't either. So I learned that there's no protocol for how relationships are supposed to go.
yeah. What, if you don't mind sharing, the beginning parts of your relationship?
Yeah, I met Sebastian in December 2014, and we started dating the end of February 2015. And then in July of 2015, I found out I was pregnant. So it was a very short courtship before things got serious. And, it just happened to work out for us. And it's not something that I would recommend for people to try because it certainly doesn't fit any of the protocols that we have. But it did work out for us. So,
And it goes back to, there's no right way or wrong way to be in a relationship, So there's a lot of people long distance, or a lot of people meet online, or probably meet organically. I think more people meet online than anything else now. And sometimes they live in two different houses for a period of time, or whatever, right? And stuff like that, because their careers, or because whatever their schedule is. There isn't a right or wrong way of doing anything, I don't think. I don't think you have to, because I know a couple also that they fight a ton, but their rule is they have to sleep in the same bed every single night, which is fine, but it doesn't mean that they're in a healthy relationship. And I also know another relationship where they see each other kind almost like every 10 days or something. Uh and when I had dinner with them, they seem like they're super lovebirds. And it's
yeah.
been like 14 years.
Yeah, I mean, different things work for different people. And I literally just had this conversation with a couple today because I've worked with people who they don't like any signs of anger. Like you yell or you get aggressive or you get upset and they're like, "Oh my God, why are you being so abusive?" And then other people might fight with their partner every single day and it doesn't bother them at all. So there are red flags. We know that there are red flags and there are places that we need to draw the line, but at the same time, different people can tolerate different things. And
Right.
that's why I do believe what my grandmother used to tell me, which is there's someone for everyone.
That's true. I think that's absolutely true. I also think uh that if you want a long-term relationship bad enough, and you're willing to compromise, not compromise not in a bad way, not to give up your authenticity, right? But if you're willing to, if it's important enough for you, then it it will work out. I don't know, but obviously not chase the same guy over and over again. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. But if you're both on the same page, and you're both communicating and you're both authentically loving each other, who cares what everything else looks like?
Yeah. Yeah. And you were saying, people have different houses and things like that. When I was in my beginning of my career, I had two friends that lived in a separate state from their husband. And it was hard, but they did it. And their
Yep.
marriage didn't end because they had to do that. Yeah, I've seen other people whose marriages did end because there was extramarital affairs and there were other things going on, but it all depends on the people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also agree. I also want to bring up too that you and I kind of grew up very similarly. Like our moms really did really believed in marriage. So they love us to death and everything, and I'm sure they have only good intentions for us. But there was a lot of pressure in getting married. So
Mhm.
for me personally, I think for you too, you shared this with me a few times. There's a feeling of worthiness when you had a ring on your finger. There's a like, oh, this person loves me enough to bring me into their life, or like to have me forever, or to get a ring for me, or do those things, or change your last name, or whatever it was, right? Like, you love me enough to do that. And I struggled with that for a really long time in my 20s. I gave somebody one of the loves of my life. I loved him to death. We were just perfect for each other. And I just loved his family and vice versa. And we were set to get married. And I gave him an ultimatum when I was turning 30. And he was like, nope. No, but he wasn't even like, no, he was kind of like, okay, let's try to work on it. Let's not do the ultimatum, because I was like, if you I don't get married before I'm 30, I'm out.
Oh,
And he was
shit.
like, yeah, and I have even met his external family, and he's like, why don't you meet my family and do this? And some of his family was not in the same country, so he said, hey, why don't we go and meet them and do all this stuff? And he was trying to make it work, but I was so stuck in feeling worthy, or making myself believe that I was worthy, that I was like, no, if I'm worth it, you will marry me. That's what was in my mind. It was so stuck in my mind. And my world crushed after he said no. Which I look back and I think is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, I so happy for that. We're still really great friends, and he's so amazing, and I love him to death. Um, but I but during that time, it really came down to, I'm not worthy if I'm not married.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way. And, you asked in the beginning if it's our culture. I think you said something along those lines. And I do think we have been, at least in this country, and maybe in others as well, conditioned to believe that this is like the protocol for life. Like, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a job, and then you get married, and then you have babies. And that's our protocol. And so, when you're in high school, people are asking you, when are you going to go to college, or where are you going to go to college, and what are you going to study? And then afterwards, they're like, oh, what kind of job are you going to get? And then afterwards, oh, are you dating? Are you seeing anybody? And then once you start dating someone, like, oh, are you guys going to get married? And then if you do get married, the next question is always, when are you guys going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? And, I think now we have evolved to a place where hopefully people are beginning to learn that people don't care to follow these protocols, and that we shouldn't be shoving them on people either, that there's many different ways to live your life, and we don't have to have this protocol. But because that's how it was ingrained in at least you and I,
Mm-hmm.
we do get this idea that it means that you love me if you marry me, or you don't love me if you won't marry me, or like, if you can't marry me, then you must want to sleep with other people, or you must want to leave me, or we attach all these meanings to it, which is really unfair. And the conclusion that I've come to through my journey of breaking down marriage in my own life, is that it's all an illusion anyways, because who can really promise forever? How do you know what is going to happen and who you guys are going to become? And it's just unrealistic really to say that forever I'm going to do these things. I mean,
It's almost a gamble if you think about it, because okay, basically you get the certificate to say that you're married, right? Uh, and if with this certificate there's no guarantee, there's no warranty. It's like, you know, I had a I had a 10-year warranty on this marriage. You're not getting out, buddy.
you know what? That would be a good idea though. If
You
we
sign.
could have like a term marriage policy.
And after a while, it's like now it becomes open.
Then it would be really interesting to see what people, what kind of terms they put on their insurance policies. Like, let's maybe we should revisit this.
Oh, this is great. Oh, could you imagine how you could be like, if you do this, I get to do this.
And if you say like, okay, if we stay together 5 years, we're gonna have $10,000 in this insurance policy.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
stay together 10 years, it's 20,000. If we stay together 30 years, I don't know, that would be interesting if I'm like,
And the
fuck it,
person,
I'll take the 10
like,
grand and run.
but the person that says I'm out, that person doesn't get any of the money.
This
No, but then
fun, Julie. We might be onto something here.
what if you feel obligated? You go, God, I should just stay for the 10,000. You know what I mean?
Well, okay. That actually happens in like prenups. I know one of my clients was telling me that her dad has a lot of money and it was in his prenup that the longer she stayed with him, the more money she would get.
Damn.
Yeah. And so her and her siblings would have bets like how long is she gonna last?
Did she seem unhappy? She must be unhappy for her siblings. You could tell, like, mom's just in it for the money.
It
Whatever.
wasn't their mom, it was their stepmom.
Oh, okay, okay.
But yeah, I don't know. They didn't think she seemed that happy. As far as I know, they're still together though.
Yeah, who really knows? At the end of the day, too, as much as you could share your issues with other people in their relationships, they could only judge from their collection of experiences. So if you're in a 7-year relationship, right? And if let's say you're trying to share something with me, I could only share something with you in a full my most is 4 years, right? So it's like I could only share you a 4-year relationship like experience or my collection of experiences that I've had in my life. So I can't really tell you anything, and it's just my opinion that I'm giving back to you. It's not right or wrong or whatever. It's just my opinion, and it's the best opinion I could have, but that's mine, you know? So I think people need to also understand when we're turning to other people for advice, and let's say we don't even take it, it's okay not to take it. And also on top of that, it's okay to ask for advice. It's okay to say I'm struggling. It's okay because people, you don't want to go and be in a beautiful marriage from the outside and it's like this, tied with a perfect bow, and behind doors you're just dying. You're like, I hate him.
I
That's way worse.
just, I just saw a video on Adele. She was being interviewed, I guess, maybe by Oprah. It's what it sounded like. And she was telling Oprah that she didn't have a relationship with her father really growing up, and so she always told herself that when she had a family, she was never going to get divorced. So she finally gets married, she finally has the kid, and she like devotes her whole self to that. Like she wasn't singing, she wasn't doing anything else. She was just in that family. And she said she remembers telling her friends, I'm actually really not happy. And they were like, "What?" And she said, that's why she ended up getting divorced, because she realized that she thought that she would be happy. She thought that that's all she ever wanted, but it turned out that wasn't making her feel fulfilled. And then she had to deal with the guilt of feeling like she was failing her family.
Oh my God, I need to listen to that. That sounds amazing. She that's why she came out with that song Easy on Me. If you listen to it, it's like, just go easy on me. I devoted my life to these two people, right? I'm probably pretty much probably her child and her husband. And she said, just go easy on me. I didn't know what I was choosing when I chose this life, or this life chose me, or I was really young when this life chose me, something like that. And it's so true because because I'm so actually really happy that I didn't get married right when I was in third. You know, when I'm glad that he said no in the ultimatum, because I didn't even know myself. I was following the my life with check boxes. It was like graduate with honors, check, get a house, check, get a blah blah, check. So I was this perfect person on the outside because I was so insecure on the inside that I needed the outside to show everybody that I'm okay. I'm fine, guys. I'm fine. Look at me. I have a house at 24 years old. Hey, look at me. I graduated with on. Look at me. I did a da da. Look at me. I'm running a company. I'm fine. I was working out 7 days a week like a fucking maniac, right? Bomb ass body, I don't have to say. But like, who, you must be running away from something. You know what I mean? Like I don't remember enjoying it that much. I just remember I had to do it because I knew that it physically gave me endorphins.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I running away from? It's crazy to just think that now, and I say, man, like the level of happiness that we have now, right? And also going back to being easy on me and easy on us and easy on each other, because we don't know what we know until we know it.
That's true.
Like I was in a relationship with a man with kids, and I remember getting advice from my mom and other people saying, oh, you're never going to be number one, you know. And I said, that's fine. But after a while, I was like, this is not okay, you know, because not that I have to be number one, but I was like number nothing, you know what I mean? Like everything was his kids was his world, and everything else was nothing. So I felt like nothing to him, and and I didn't want to get out of it because to me he represented my worth, and
Mm,
I'm sure that to Adele, being divorced represented something to her too. She said, I
right.
now be slapped with this label divorcee. And that's something I promised myself as a child I would never have.
Yeah.
And it's these titles that we connect with and we don't let go that fucks us up.
Yeah. I was talking to a client recently about how she hates the fact that she has ex-husbands that she had children with that she has to deal with because it's a constant reminder to her that she failed. So we started talking about those relationships, and there was like the first guy she was with, she met him in high school. Dude, how could you have predicted what the hell was going to happen
No way.
from high school? You know, you have such a limited understanding of the world. Plus, there were no signs that there was a problem in their relationship. Uh, what ended up happening was I think he got arrested for something, and she ended up finding out that he had this like whole other side to him that she had no idea anything
Whoa.
about. Yeah. So that can happen to any of us, first of all, but definitely when you're in high school, you're more at risk for something like that to happen. So how can you be so mean to yourself about it when you were in high school, dude? Come on.
And so going back to, you don't know what you know until you know it.
Yeah.
Like she had to have married him. She had to have gone through those steps to realize, oh, I don't like this. Because
Yeah.
you can't look at a problem and go, oh, I don't like that already.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
don't know.
sometimes you can. Sometimes you can be like, oh, can't deal with that. But sometimes you don't know what you can tolerate until you're in it.
Yeah. And then you think that's okay. And you go, no, that's not okay. I realize it's not okay. But you needed to be in it to realize it's not okay.
Yeah. There was a job that I used to interview people for, and I would tell them how rough the job was, and people would only hear me say that some people are very successful at it. And so they would all then believe that they were going to be really successful at it. And I even had one of the girls who I really liked, by the way, come back to me and say, nobody told me how hard this job was going to be. And I took that one personally because I was like, bitch, I told you. I told you in the interview. But people have selective hearing, and it's weird. Like if you tell people you might not be able to do this, they're like, yes, I can.
They go, what you're telling me is I'm going to be good at this.
I
It,
will be the exception to the rule. I'm gonna be able
yeah.
to do
I think it comes down to also our culture of the underdog. Like the movie Dumb and Dumber, when Jim Carrey is talking to that girl that he loves, right? Or he has a big crush on. And then she goes, "You have 1 in a million chance to be with me." And he goes, "So what you're telling me is I have a chance." And I actually love that. Number one, I love the self-belief. Come on, the positivity is amazing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's kind of like people are going to hear what they're going to hear.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah, so within relationships, you might tell someone, yeah, I have a problem with this or that, but in the beginning you're like, well, I think you're really cute and I don't think that's really going to bother me. And then you get into it like a year in or so and you're like, god damn, this is annoying. I can't do it. So there's some things that we just don't realize until we experience it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I think our overall theme, I think when it comes to relationship, marriage, all that is just be easy on us.
Mhm.
Be easy on everybody. We're learning, right?
Yeah.
We're learning. And I really think personally for me, it's a reflection of my self-worth. The higher my self-worth, the better my quality of relationships are.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that because people say one of the protocols that people say is, well, you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. Really? I would love to poll everyone who's gotten married and been like, so, would you say you loved yourself at a 10 before you got married? Um, First of all, I'm pretty sure the answer is no. But second, I think sometimes it's hard to know what your insecurities are when you're single. When you're single, you're just out here doing your thing, having a good time, whatever, and your buttons aren't being pushed. You have no relationship to trigger you. So how do you
Mm.
know what's going to be a problem for you?
That's true because your logical side of your brain is like, oh, I wouldn't be a person that's abusive. I wouldn't be a person that yelled at me. I wouldn't be a but when you're in it, you go, then your emotional side comes in and goes, oh, he loves me though. He said he would never do that again. He would da da da. So it's like, yeah, you're right. You can't really judge when you're single.
Yeah. And even like the abusive relationships, it's so easy to sit on the outside and be like, oh, I would never tolerate that. But I think what people don't realize is how intermittent the abuse is. Usually, usually they're not an asshole every single day. It usually builds up to that point. So some
Right.
people, even people who are really abusive, might only have outbursts every 3 months.
Yeah.
You have 3 months of you guys getting along and having a good time, and then their mood shifts or whatever happens with them. And now all of a sudden they're being an asshole. And you're like, well, he's not always like this.
Yeah. And I was actually in an abusive relationship for 2 years and it was just physically abusive, emotionally abusive, very crazy. Like choking me. I always had bruises on me, stuff like that. And it built up to that. Before that, number one, I had low self-esteem. Number two, I had strong societal obligations of what the definition of boyfriend and we were talking about marriage was. So I really connected to not letting go my identity of worthiness when it comes to being in a relationship. So that combination is not good. And also that our highs would be really high and our lows would be really low. So if we had a really low, then he immediately would move mountains to make it high, and I would justify the high with that, or justify the low with that high. Then it would be fine until he was triggered again. Then it would be a low, immediately followed with a high. And it was that going on for a long time. Then towards the end, it was just being like dangerous for my health. So I was like, I'm gonna die if I stay in this. And I went and studied abroad. And this was my abusive relationship was in college. And I studied abroad in Costa Rica and I was gone for 3 months. And during that time, I truly believed because he told me no one's gonna love you. Like you're nothing but dirt on people's shoes or something, right? And I believed him really, really believed him. And no one's gonna love you. But when I went to Costa Rica, I had a little fling in Costa Rica, but the first time someone else liked me, and I was like, oh, people do like me. I am worth something. I'm not a piece of shit. And when I came back, he called me right when I came back, literally went off the plane on the way back. He called me, and I remember I picked up the phone, and him like just giving me, giving me all the sweet nothings. Like, you're so everything to me. I've been waiting. I've been calling you every day until you came back. I found out what your flight was, blah, 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 whatever it was. And I remember I only said 2 lines to him. I remember saying, um, how do you know what my flight is? Then I kind of ignored his response. Then I said, if you call me again, I will get a restraining order against you.
Wow,
And
good.
then hung up the phone. Yeah, and hung up the phone. And for some reason, I just having somebody like me was just like awakening, that I was like, hey, you're not a piece of shit without him. You're gonna be fine. And finally believing I am gonna be fine. And
Well, that's another thing that I think people don't realize is that when somebody's telling you the same thing over and over again, somebody that you care about, we do start to believe it. It doesn't matter how strong you are mentally. Um, that's just humans. That's how we are, which is why it's important who we're around and the kind of environments that we allow around us. But I mean, that's basically how the freaking Holocaust happened. Like,
oh
people
yeah.
brainwashed, and we're all susceptible to that. And that's something that the total sidebar, but it scares me in this country because we like to believe that we're so strong mentally and that we're not capable of buying the bullshit. But I think that every one of us, it has the capacity to buy the bullshit. I think that that's
Mm,
what happens to us politically. I think that's what happens to us in relationships. I think that happens to us a lot, which is again why it's so important that we protect who we're around and what kind of input we have coming in, because we will buy it. I mean, that's just how we are.
mm, yeah, I agree with that. I think drinking Kool-Aid is so easy. Drinking that Kool-Aid, it's right there. It
If you
literally is
think
right.
about sales and commercialism and advertising, it's all manipulation, and we fall for it.
Yeah.
I
We're
fall.
in a consumerist culture.
Yeah, there are sales tactics that are really just manipulation. For
Oh, wow.
example, I somebody sent me a video trying to get me to work with them. And in the video, the guy said my name like 500 times. And I was
Alicia,
like, wow, he's
Alicia,
really overdoing this sales tactic.
Alicia, let me tell you, Alicia,
Yeah.
Alicia. So Alicia,
And what I'm trying to say, Alicia, and I'm like, wow, that's a sales tactic. When you say someone's name and you make it feel personal. But all these tactics are manipulation tactics. So when we talk about gaslighting and we talk about abuse, like, we are all susceptible to it. Oh, another tactic, sorry that I'm rambling for a second here.
no, go.
Trump used to do it using hyperbole. He would say, it's going to be huge. It's going to be fantastic. Everyone's going to love it. When you say things like that, it gets people hyped up and people are like, yeah, yeah, you know? And
Yeah.
what are it wasn't even true most of the time, but just because he said it so emphatically, we believed it and we want
Hmm.
to believe it.
People really do want to believe that's gonna happen. Like, that's the whole point of the lottery. They want to win the lot. They want this dream to come true, and they kind of want a dream. They want to have I'm here for something. Purpose. Maybe it comes down to purpose. I don't know.
Um, I don't know either. I'm not sure why we're so easily manipulated, but that's the good news is that if we can accept that we're easily manipulated, then we can be more careful and even use little tricks to manipulate ourselves, get
Mm.
ourselves to do things that we want to do.
So if I was struggling with a relationship, right? And I was like, oh, I really want to be in a relationship. I feel so shitty about being single. Those positive affirmations, if I just said, it's fun being single, it's fun being single, it's fun being single. If I just repeated that over and over and over to myself and made lists of why it would be fun, do you think I'll start believing in that?
I think it could help. If you just say it's fun being single and you don't believe it, that does nothing for you. But if you identify reasons why it is fun and focus in on those things, then yes, I think that could actually do something for you. And in fact, I have told women to do this. I don't think any of them have actually done it, but when you're leaving an abusive relationship, what you need to do is make a list of the reasons that you don't want to be with that person, because we forget. Our pleasure center only remembers those high highs, and we forget why we don't want to be with that person. So we need to remind ourselves. And I'm saying women, men can be abused too. And this same tactic can work for men who are trying to leave an abusive relationship.
Mm.
Um, I think statistically it does happen to women more, but it does happen to men as well. Women can be real nasty, so don't get me wrong about that. But yeah, our brains are real interesting in the sense that when something's bad for us, we tend to only remember the good. And when something's good for us, we tend to only remember the bad. So, for
Is that
example, if I'm talking about brownies, I love brownies, but they're so good. They're so delicious. They make me happy. But what do they really bring for me nutritionally? Absolutely zero. Nothing. Nothing.
okay? Okay.
When I talk about working out, it's terrible. I don't like it. I can't breathe. I feel uncomfortable. I get nauseous. I'm sweating. It's gross. I don't like it. But what does it do for me? A lot, everything. Hell, it's like so good for you.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Huh.
Our brains are kind of mean to us in that way.
Why do we do that?
It's how we're wired. It's how we're wired. It has to do with the pleasure center. You know, if we're getting a dopamine hit from something, then that dopamine hit is what we remember. So for example, smoking cigarettes. There's nothing really good about smoking cigarettes, but it gives us a dopamine rush because it's a stimulant and the nicotine. And so people think even I need to smoke the cigarette to calm myself down. Physiologically, that cigarette is not calming you down at all. It's increasing your heart rate. It's increasing your bodily functions. It's kicking everything up. But
Yeah.
we psychologically, we think that it's calming us down. So
Uh,
it's just the way that we're wired. That dopamine is what our brain wants more of.
oh. Oh. So interesting. So it goes back to self-belief, that hypnosis, the imagination. If you just imagine that you're happy being single, or happy in this relationship, or at least just authentic, or worthy. If you're worthy, then um you won't make kind of desperate, you won't feel like you have to be in a relationship, or you have to not be in a relationship, or you have to do anything.
I think Brene Brown, one of my faves,
Me
she
too, I
said,
love her.
worthiness is your birthright, which means you are born worthy. Now, we do not always get treated as though we are worthy just because we were born. But I know when I think about my children, I absolutely think they're worthy. And what have they done to earn worthiness? They're a pain in the ass. So, I mean, they were cute. They did that successfully. But we are worthy just because we're human. And when you talk about the way that we feel about ourselves and the way that we think about ourselves, our value as people should not be based on our relationships, how much money we earn, what kind of job we have. And that's easy for me to say, right? But I know that if everything got stripped from me, I would probably have a crisis, you know? So I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying that who we are at our core is what we should be confident in, not all these other extraneous things that may come and may go.
Mm, yeah. But how, we said when you're born worthy, right? And that's why people say that the babies have the secret to the universe, because if they're hungry, they're like, I'm fucking hungry. If I'm uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I'm not moving until I'm comfortable. Nope, nope. I'm just gonna scream until I'm uncomfortable. And they don't care who's around or what's happening. They're gonna do what they want to do no matter what. If I'm taking a shit, I'm taking a shit right now. Uh,
That's true. It's all true.
right. Sorry, not sorry. But that authenticity and that worthiness, when do we lose that? Do we lose that in school? Do we lose that when somebody says something mean to somebody? Do we lose that from the way our parents tell us things? Do we lose that because we hear stories over and over and over that we're not worthy? That, let's say if the parents are struggling with money and they share that, they go, oh, we don't have any money, we don't have any money. And then they hear every day the story of, oh, we don't have any money. So then they go, okay, I might not be worthy because I don't have any money. And then they connect that or whatever, right? This random example. But is that why we lose our worthiness? Where do we lose that?
I think it has to do with brain development, and when we become aware that when we can think about things in a broader way, because what you're describing with babies and with little kids is that they're very egocentric, and so they think that everything that's happening is because of them, and they don't have the capacity to understand that uh you know daddy's not leaving because you're a bad kid. They just
Mm-hmm.
think I must have done something because daddy's leaving.
Yes.
That's just where their brains are developmentally. But as we get older, we can think about things in a different way. Like around age 7 or 8, usually kids can differentiate that this is a thought I have, it's not who I am. So I
Yeah.
might have a bad thought, but that doesn't mean that I'm bad. So, but before that, they don't even have the ability to differentiate that. So as we get older, we gain more of a perspective and an understanding of the world. So we start to understand, oh, I think Jessica is getting more attention than me at school, so maybe I'm not that pretty.
Mm.
And then we start to say, well, Samantha is wearing Louis Vuitton all the time, and my parents say that we can't buy that, and she seems to get a lot of attention for her Louis Vuitton, so am I not as worthy because I don't have Louis Vuitton?
And if I had it, then I would be worthy.
So we start to notice things and we start to compare ourselves, and then we start to, and people in our lives matter too. What are the people in your life telling you? Are you only getting attention when you do something for your parents? Oh, you cleaned up. Wow, good for you. Is that the only time you're getting attention? Or are you only getting attention when you're performing? Some people sing and dance when they're little, and that's when they get the most attention.
Yeah.
So, then we unconsciously get these messages that that's how you become
Yeah.
worthy.
We find value in what we do, not who we are.
Right.
And it's really hard for parents, and I don't blame parents for that, because you want to celebrate, you accidentally celebrate things, right? You accidentally celebrate, oh my God, hey, you did, that was great. Or thanks for helping with the laundry, or thanks for what, you just are so grateful for that. But it's hard to say, thank you for just being you, and there's so many times that we do lose track of that. And I think it comes down to also when you're talking about your worthiness and the story that we tell ourselves, and it goes with inner child trauma, I think, hand in hand with because there's this book called from Mark Manson, I think is his name. It's like We Are All Fucked or something. I forgot what the name. But in that he says, like when we're 5 years old and trauma happens to us at 5, and we go, Daddy left. And at 5 years old, the 5-year-old mind could only say, Daddy left because I did something wrong.
Right.
But our adult mind now goes, no, Daddy left because he wasn't getting along with mommy. And nothing with me. I'm sure he actually stayed because of me. He probably stayed longer because of me, but he couldn't do it, so then he left. Or if not getting along, he was fucked up, or he didn't want this, whatever he wanted, right? Or he thought it was a negative environment for him to be in, for whatever reason he left. But it's not my fault. And I absolutely agree with you that our value doesn't come from what we do. It comes from who we are. And being a person that lived the perfectionist lifestyle, because I was trying to prove to other people I was perfect. I did everything for everybody all the time. I smiled for them. I dressed up for them. I cleaned this for them. I did this for them. No questions asked, because I wanted them to give me value, to say, Julie, you were so great. Julie, that was so great. Thank you for doing that. And I value now, when I'm in a relationship or a friendship or anything, right? A relationship with another person, romantic or platonic. I really value that relationship now because I see them for who they are. Like, Alicia, for you and me, right? I really value our relationship. You don't really do anything for me, like you don't buy me gifts, or you don't pay me, or I don't know what you do, you don't give me massages or whatever, right? But like who you are, I really value and I look up to. So I really value you for who you are and not what you do for me. And in the same time, actually, because I value for who you are, you bring so much value in my life, and I'm so happy. I act for what you do to me is just to make me happy for being you.
I'm so glad you said that, not just because it feels good, which it does, but because that's what I try to explain to my clients, that people don't give a shit what you do for work most of the time. They care about how you make them feel and the connection that you have with them. And they value different things about you that have nothing to do with what your job is. And I've told a couple of my clients that I have 2 good girlfriends that are doctors, and sometimes they get on their doctor talk and they start talking about patients and, I don't know, biology. I don't fucking know, all those medical things. And I love listening to it, because I always have loved medical stuff, even though I don't want to touch it. That's gross. I love hearing about it for sure. So I love listening, but sometimes I have to fight the idea that, like, oh shit, I don't have anything to contribute to this conversation right now.
Okay.
And I've had to realize over the years that my friends don't care that I'm not a doctor and that I can't contribute to that conversation. We can talk about other things and enjoy other things about each other. They do not care that my job is not the same as theirs.
They probably even appreciate that it's not the same. Because imagine, like, all my friends are my coworkers. No, not gonna do that.
Yeah. And I feel that way in the world of psychology. Not that I don't have friends who are therapists and psychologists, but I always said that I couldn't marry or be with one, because there would be way too much psychoanalyzing. Like, that would be so overwhelming. I don't think I could do that.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Like, are you doing that because you're defensive? Or you're doing that because you have this inner child trauma that you didn't work through? Let's work on it right now. It's like, no, bitch, I just want to go to sleep.
Yes, my God, that's a lot all the time. Like, no
Um,
thanks.
yeah, that's true. And that's a perfect segue to our next episode. So, thank you, listeners, again for joining us in today's episode about marriage and relationships. So, our next one is going to be inner child trauma. And I know this is a huge subject, and I'm pretty sure we're going to do multiple episodes in this. I don't know if back to back or here and there or whatnot, but lots to cover in that. And I'm super excited because I think inner child trauma therapy for me completely changed my life. So, I can't wait to share.
Woohoo! All right, guys, we look forward to seeing you, or I guess we don't really see you. We look forward to you tuning in next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.